Okay, review time. This one will be on the 1985 National League champion, the St. Louis Cardinals. Let's get right into the offense. And as always, we'll get started with the top of the order. We take a look at the 1-2 hitters and their on base chances. Set in stone, you had Vince Coleman leading off and Willie McGee, the MVP from 1985, batting second. And you see their on base chance numbers right there. Those are numbers that you really don't want out of a leadoff hitter. Don't like those numbers at all out of Vince Coleman. In fact, I'm going to drop a suggestion later on what to do if you choose to play with the 85 Cardinals and change the lineup around because let's face it, a AAA stealing doesn't help you if you don't get on base. Numbers from Willie McGee are very solid. Let me go ahead and also show you Willie McGee's multiple base advance hits versus lefties and righties. You see, those are really solid numbers. And little spoiler alert here, I'm going to tell you that those are actually the best numbers on the team right there, what you get out of Willie McGee. So really, and overall, as you would expect from a guy who won the MVP, really a terrific card out of Willie McGee. Now let's take a look at the number three hitter. Pretty much set in stone also right there. Number three in the order, playing second base every day, was Tom Herr, and you see his hits with multiple base advancement. Those numbers are a little bit low. Those are numbers that you really don't want to see out of a three hitter. Now let's take a look at the cleanup guy, the first baseman, Jack Clark. You see his numbers. Obviously, those numbers can go up a little bit depending on the ballpark you're playing in when you factor in ballpark effect home runs. But again, the numbers there come out a little bit weak. Now I'm going to show you the right field platoon where we have Andy Van Slyke and Tito Landrum. I'm going to show you their runner advance hits. Andy Van Slyke versus righties and Tito Landrum against lefties. You can see Landrum's number is actually pretty good. Van Slyke's numbers is a little bit low. Don't like seeing that number. I'm going to show you the catcher against right-handed pitching. That was Darrell Porter. You see his runner advance hits. That's a solid number. Plus, that can go up to 8 or 9 depending on the ballpark that you're playing in. So you do have some pretty good production out of Darrell Porter, who, according to the Stratomatic book, he was the number 7 hitter in the lineup versus right-handed pitching. Now, the last guy that I'm going to show you for the offense is the shortstop Ozzie Smith, and this is going to tie into what I was talking about before with Vince Coleman. If I can make a strong suggestion, if you are playing with the 1985 Cardinals, I would not hit Vince Coleman leadoff against left-handed pitching. Not a chance. Not when you have numbers like that out of Ozzie Smith with his on base chances right there against lefties. And also, I'm going to show you Ozzie Smith's hits with multiple base advancement versus lefties. So you can see Ozzie Smith, very solid card against left handed pitching that year. So he's definitely a guy that I would utilize a little bit more in the lineup than having him at the bottom of the order. So if I was to look at the 1985 Cardinals offense as a whole, and again, going by the Stratomatic book and going by their lineup tendencies. This offense did not grade out very well. And it pretty much starts right at the top. I can't get over the fact that they had a leadoff guy like Vince Coleman who was just not very effective at getting on base. So you see their offensive scores right there. I gave them a 3 out of 5 for on base percentage. The only reason why they scored that high was because Willie McGee is so good at getting on base. Plus, the rest of the lineup is really good at getting on base as well, even though I didn't show you all of their numbers. But Willie McGee's numbers are really solid at the top of that lineup. The reason why I had to knock that score down to a 3 out of 5 was because I just don't like Vince Coleman's numbers. The middle of the order, I'm not crazy about that either. I don't like the lack of runner advance hits, so that scored a 2 out of 5. And as far as the righty lefty mix in the lineup, I graded them slightly above average. I gave them a 3 out of 5 in that category as well. I know there's a lot of switch hitters in the lineup, but switch hitting doesn't really help when there is a real drop off from one side of the plate compared to the other. So the 85 Cardinals offense just grades out as just average. They score 2.6 out of 5. Now, let's take a look at the defense. Let's start up the middle here in the infield with Ozzie Smith and Tom Herr. You can't get much better than that. In fact, I don't think I've ever given out a perfect 5 out of 5 in the middle infield defense, but I have to do that right here. There's nothing to balk about here with Ozzie Smith and Tom Herr. Both of them excellent ratings, and the E ratings are very much in line. Now let's take a look at the outfield defense. And remember, there is a right field platoon with Andy Van Slyke and Tito Landrum. However, you've got no holes in the outfield. As far as the defensive ratings go, you really can't complain when you've got all ones and twos in the outfield. That's just really, really a big plus when you're playing with this team. So I went ahead and gave the outfield defense a perfect score of a 5 out of 5 as well. Now, let's look at the E ratings on the Cardinals, and this is where you are going to run into a little bit of an issue. Even though Willie McGee is a 1, he's an E10 in center field. That number is a little bit high for me. You're solid with the E rating at third base, but the E rating at first base, this is going to hurt you. And once again, I always bring up the E ratings for the corner infield spots because once again, anyone who's ever played Stratomatic would know the splits at first base and third base are very high, where more often than not, you are rolling to decide whether the defender committed an error or not. So I did bounce a little bit back and forth coming down with a E rating score on the St. Louis Cardinals. And I thought about it and I was like, well, are two weak positions like you have with the E rating at first base and the E rating in center field, is that enough to knock it down to below a 3.5? And I settled on a 3.5 score. And the reason why I came up to a score that high was because you are really good at second base, shortstop, third base, which also has a high split, as I mentioned before, and you're solid in the corner outfield spot. So really with the 85 Cardinals, you're really only looking at two positions, first base and center field, where E ratings can be an issue. So even though I would not give them a 4 out of 5, I settled on a score of a 3.5 out of 5. So their overall defensive rating comes out to a 4.5 out of 5, which is still an excellent rating. That's a very good defensive rating. In fact, I would say that's one of the better defensive ratings that I've ever handed down. Now, let's take a look at the Cardinals starting rotation from 1985. The ace that year, John Tudor. You see his numbers, his on base chances right there. This very easy call for me with John Tudor. This is a legit ace card, and this was an easy 5 out of 5 call for me. Now let's take a look at the starting rotation depth. I'm going to show you Danny Cox, Joaquin Andujar, and Bob Forsch, and you see all of their numbers there as far as on base chances when you roll their card. The one thing I'm not particularly crazy about Bob Forsch's card is there is some power opportunities there against right-handed batters, but all in all, it is all the numbers check out well above average for the 1985 Cardinals starting rotation. Especially the card that I really like in this set was from Joaquin Andujar. I really consider him to be really the solid number 2 guy in this rotation. I settled on a Cardinals overall starting pitching grade of a 4.75 out of 5, as once again the ace John Tudor gets a perfect 5 out of 5, and starting rotation depth I gave him a 4.5 out of 5. So once again, St. Louis Cardinals 1985 starting rotation score of 4.75 out of 5. Now let's look at the bullpen. I considered Todd Worrell as the ace or the closer out of the bullpen because that's pretty much the way it was when the postseason rolled around. Although you do have to remember that on that team, it was actually Jeff Lottie who had the most saves on the team, as well as Ken Daly had a number of saves. But just for the purpose of breaking this up in an organized fashion, I went with Todd Worrell as the closer. So let's take a look at Todd Worrell's on base chance numbers. You see those right there. He has some power opportunities on his card against right-handed batting, which I'm not particularly crazy about. But you see his numbers against lefties is just off the charts. It's a good card out of a closer. What drives his score down is that I'm not crazy about the power opportunities that you have on his card against right-handed batting. So I had Todd Worrell come in at a 4 out of 5. Now let's take a look at the bullpen depth. Let's see, I'm going to show you the numbers for four guys here: Ken Daly, Jeff Lottie, um, Ricky Horton, and Bill Campbell. First, I'm going to show you the numbers for Ken Daly. And you see, he's a lefty, and his numbers check out very solid as far as his on base chances. What I really like about Ken Daly's card is that he keeps the ball in the ballpark. So, no issues giving up home runs there. Now I'm going to show you Jeff Lottie. You see his numbers. Those numbers check out pretty good. And once again, like I said a few minutes ago, he actually had the most saves on the 1985 Cardinals. Now I'm going to show you another lefty out of the bullpen, Ricky Horton. You see his numbers there. That is a really solid number out of a lefty reliever. And that is really going to help you mix and match during the course of the game when you have a lefty who is very good at getting left-handed batters out, as well as the fact that it's not like he is ineffective against right-handed batters. You see his numbers against right-handed batters is a little bit high, but it's still a very manageable number. Now I'm going to show you the numbers for Bill Campbell. Obviously he was a right-handed pitcher, and he has very effective numbers against left-handed batting. And against right-handed batting, once again, we run into the issue where he does have a couple of power opportunities, giving up home runs against right-handed batters. I really like the depth in this Cardinal bullpen because I like the fact that they have two very effective left-handed pitchers out of the pen, and it is a very good bullpen so long as you just manage it properly. It's a bullpen that you could get away with mixing and matching when you get into the later innings. So I had no problem giving the Cardinals bullpen depth score a perfect score of a 5 out of 5. So the Cardinals overall bullpen score comes out to a 4.5 out of 5. So as we peel everything back and we look at the 1985 Cardinals final score, you're going to see that they grade out at a 4.08, just below a 4.1, which is right about where I thought the St. Louis Cardinals would be. This is definitely a team that I would categorize as a very good team. Obviously, the starting pitching is top notch on the 1985 Cardinals. The bullpen depth actually surprised me a little bit because it has been a little while since I actually went through the team. And obviously, they grade out very, very high defensively. So those are the strengths on the 1985 Cardinals. And the weaknesses when it comes to the offense, I think you could manage that a little bit better if you deviate from the Stratomatic book and don't go by their regular lineup tendencies. Like I could tell you, I personally remember in the past playing with the 1985 Cardinals and not having Vince Coleman bat leadoff. I had Ozzie Smith hitting leadoff against left-handers, and I would use Willie McGee hitting third in the lineup because I like him hitting with guys on base. But either way, however you choose to play is yours. I just grade the cards. I just scout them and try to give a honest grade as best I can. So once again, the 1985 St. Louis Cardinals come out at a 4.08 out of 5. So once again, I thank you all for watching, and my next video will be on the 1975 American League champion Boston Red Sox. Have a good day, everyone.